Hey, welcome everyone to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to remind everybody that if you would like to get a hold of me, go to our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. You can hit the contact button, send me an email. I will read it and get back to you, especially if you have an experience or something you want to come on here and share with us. Also from the website, you can go to our Patreon or TikTok or Instagram. All that sort of crazy stuff if you just can't get enough of the From the Shadows podcast. And if you want to get a hold of me directly, you can go find me on Instagram at Shane Grove Author. Send me a message, and I will get back to you that way too. So with that being said, all right, I think we have a pretty cool episode for you guys. I think we're going to learn a lot, and I've got a list of questions. I already warned our guest. I got a list of questions. So we're going to see what comes out of this. So joining us is author and director of the Aetherius Society, or a director of the Artherius Society, Paul Nugent. Paul, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast.
Thank you very much, Shane. It's a great pleasure to be with you on your show.
Well, thank you for saying that. Even if you don't mean it, thank you for saying it. Makes us.
No, I thoroughly mean it. I thoroughly mean it. Because I do appreciate it. Because hopefully I'll be able to sort of get over a lot of what my life's been about for the last 40 years at least. And I consider it to be incredibly important. I mean, not just for me, but important for humanity at this time on our world. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a little bit more about it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I want you to, so the Aetherius Society, give our listeners, for people who are not familiar with that, and some may be familiar with what that is, give our listeners a little background on what that is, how it came into being, and who founded that society.
Sure. Well, that's a pretty loaded question, Shane, but I'll do my best to be as succinct as I can. The Aetherius Society is essentially what it is, a worldwide non-profit organization that was founded in England in 1955 by the Western Master of Yoga, Dr. George King, who the previous year, he was contacted by an intelligence, we believe coming from the higher dimensions of Venus, who went by the name of Aetherius. Hence, we are the Aetherius Society. Now, Dr. George King, I mean, this wasn't anything just sort of random and bizarre. It wouldn't have, if it was random and bizarre, I don't think exactly 70 years later, we would still be in existence as an international organization. It was incredibly important contact. Dr. George King was born in England in 1919. 20 years later, along came the Second World War. He was 20 years of age, and by all expectations, someone expected to go off and fight for his country, which he was certainly willing to do. However, he recognized a more important law, if you like, law with a capital L: "Thou shalt not kill," bigger than man. You could obviously see that Hitler and Nazism there was nothing good about it, and everything right about defending one's country against it. So he joined the fire service, the fire brigade in London, and went through the Blitz, this so-called accidental dropping of bombs on the city of London every night. So there he was, running into buildings that had been bombed or on fire to rescue the elderly, babies, whatever, children. And it had a very profound effect upon him, the madness of it, the inhumanity of it. And as a child, he'd been, I won't say, he was very psychic as a child. He knew of sort of other dimensions, so to speak. But this experience obviously was extremely dramatic, and it led to him studying and practicing the ancient science of yoga, which was unusual in London or in England, in the 40s and 50s. And he did it very intensely. He was practicing various forms of yoga, primarily pranayama, which is yoga breathing exercises, and mantra yoga for up to 8 hours a day over a 10-year period. And the consequence of that, that intensity, that discipline, that focus, was that a force that we all have in the base of the spine by the name of the Kundalini, to give it its Sanskrit terminology, rose through a channel in the spine called the Sushumna channel, opening the chakras, the psychic centers that we all have in our aura attached to our physical body through the nervous system. And he was able to raise this Kundalini to the higher chakras, the Christ center and the crown chakra. This is what essentially yoga is all about, being able to do that. So it's incredibly difficult, takes tremendous discipline. But after that, after 10 years of that intensity and focus, he was able to fully raise the Kundalini, enabling him to go into a state of samadhi, the highest state of consciousness known on earth. It's the goal of yoga. With that ability, by the early 1950s, certainly by 1954, when he had that contact, he was able to go in the state of cosmic consciousness and be contacted by intelligences on higher dimensions, both of this world and of other worlds. Got to also just throw in there that this was the height of the Cold War. It wasn't maybe the height, but we certainly entered the Cold War when not only had we dropped atom bombs at the end of the Second World War, we went on to develop the hydrogen bomb, far more deadly. And it was also when flying saucers were very commonly seen all around the world. And I think, well, unquestionably, there is a link between all of those things. The madness of humanity, we believe we've destroyed our civilization before in the same way through the intense misuse of atomic power, namely Atlantis, and before that, Lemuria. It even goes further back than that to a planet we destroyed over 18 million years ago. And yet we're part of, we're divine beings. We're part of this sort of divinity of God, so to speak, this oneness, this unity in a far greater sense. And there is no such thing as death. There's reincarnation. And there are other realms, other dimensions to which we go to, not just around this earth, depending on the karmic pattern we've developed for ourselves, but beyond this earth, there are higher dimensions. We can go to Mars, we can go to the moon, we can go to Venus and say, well, there's nothing here. But we're not looking at the higher dimensions of those worlds. So the Aetherius Society, as it came out of this contact with this intelligence from Venus by the name of Aetherius, to warn us against the misuse of atomic power, very sacred energy, and to remind us of this sacred, spiritual, divine journey of evolution that we're all making. So that, in a way, is what the Aetherius Society is about, or certainly how it was founded.
And so, as you describe that stuff, describe the stuff behind this, and the thought of what the Aetherius Society is, it's really sounds like somebody making contact with George King, Dr. King,
mm-hmm.
who they've recognized as somebody who has elevated his consciousness, right?
Absolutely.
To be open to them, for them to say, hey, look, stop. We don't want history to repeat itself.
Exactly.
We've already done this before. We've seen this before. How many chances does the human race need to have before they learn from their mistakes? And it all, I mean, it, I got to say, it makes total sense to me. Like, I come from a Christian background, okay? And when you start thinking about, Jesus and God, coming down and creating because we have to have a creation story, and that Jesus then is up in heaven. Where's heaven? Is heaven in Saturn or heaven? It's the people who are writing the stuff in that time period, okay, and how they see it, or what they think is happening. And why couldn't Jesus and some of the other prophets or religious figures that people worship be these extraterrestrial beings, or beings from a different dimension, which we know there are different dimensions. It's scientifically proven. It doesn't have to be like something crazy that people, I mean, and that's the problem is people hear this stuff that we're saying and right off the bat say, oh, that doesn't make any sense. But if you start listening to it and seeing how so much of it is interconnected, it makes way too much sense. And it's kind of mind blowing to me. The more I hear this stuff, and the more I can see that it's seemingly connected, it does really start make you question, so where is all these different religions? How did they spring up? And, why are they all essentially sort of rooted in the same thing when you get down to the brass tacks? And now that we have gotten past the point where you talk about aliens or people from another dimension, it doesn't sound so crazy with the stuff that's actually coming out and saying, hey, look, our government and governments all over the world have been researching UFOs and tracking them and claiming they have, contact for years. Now our government, whether we should trust them or not, is coming out and with all this evidence saying, hey, look, there's something to this. So how does that then, like, what is coming out? I know you were with Dr. King as his assistant for quite a long time. Did he foresee any of this stuff and say, hey, look, there's going to come a time and place where, people are going to be really accepting of what we're teaching?
Not specifically, although I think that he would have inevitably. You see, at the end of the day, it's all evolution, and I would agree with you. I think Orthodox Christianity, in fact, all Orthodox religions, in a way, are being turned a little bit on their heads through this revelation and realization that extraterrestrials exist. And even though at this stage it's being looked at in a sort of nuts and bolts kind of a way, that there are craft showing up that are not of this world, that's forcing us to sort of go, geez, what is that? But really it needs to be looked at in a much broader and ultimately a philosophical and even a theological perspective. What is this? Who else is out there? What are we a part of? And it makes, I won't say it makes a mockery of the Adam and Eve Garden of Eden story. I think there's a certain truth in that allegory, but it certainly isn't the beginning. It didn't all start just with Adam and Eve, so to speak, making babies, and we all came from that. Interesting, you mentioned Saturn there, as being heaven. We actually understand in the Aetherius Society that the Saturnian existence is the most evolved planetary existence within this solar system. It's very evolved. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't all end with death. And as you rightly say, it's either where is this heaven? We do recognize that there are other dimensions, higher dimensions. There are also lower dimensions. I mean, not everybody on Earth by any stretch of the imagination is a saint. There's a tremendous amount of wickedness, in inverted commas, evil, so to speak, on this Earth, which creates an energy vibration. There are lower astral realms, but there are certainly also higher realms. And again, you mentioned, you sort of alluded to this in terms of the terminology that people use. I mean, one of the Christian faith is based on this Star of Bethlehem. Well, a star is a sun, and suns don't hover over stables. Flying saucers can, and we understand that actually that was a Saturnian vessel, Saturnian craft that in inverted commas again, three wise men saw, bringing this intelligence, this Venusian intelligence. We recognize Jesus as being a Venusian. Interestingly, it does say in the Bible, I am from the bright and morning star, which is the planet Venus. And we recognize that Jesus and actually the Lord Buddha both came from Venus. Sri Krishna came from Saturn. Not that it's there's nothing competitive about it. At the end of the day, we're all part of this oneness. This oneness of God, if you like. We're all here to evolve. And the divine spark exists within each and every one of us. And what we refer to as cosmic masters, we refer to Jesus and Buddha and Sri Krishna, and there have been others, as cosmic masters who have come to this world to sort of, kindly smack us a little bit on the butt, if you like, tap us on the head, certainly on the shoulder, and say, hey, guys, this is what this game is really all about. You're here to evolve. You're here to advance. You're here to have greater and greater experience of the magnificence, if you like, of God. That's what we're here to evolve. And the journey just gets more and more and more incredible and fantastic as we evolve. But unfortunately, we have a lower nature. And we get too sort of stuck. And getting stuck can then, you got these so-called deadly sins, I suppose, where we, get angry and then we want to fight each other and we make a mess of things. And as I say, we've been there before. We were there in Atlantis. We were there before that in Lemuria. And we were there before that with another planet, we believe Malde, what's now the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, that we destroyed. And, coming out of the Second World War, once again, we learned scientifically how to split the atom and make weapons out of it. As I mentioned, went on to develop the hydrogen bomb. But this is not the way it's supposed to go. And these far more evolved intelligences come back from time to time to remind us, of what it's really all about, as indeed they did through Dr. George King, this master of yoga, who would go into a positive yogic samadhic trance. He did this over 600 times, where these intelligences could communicate through him and remind us of this incredible spiritual journey that we're all on.
Well, there's a couple. So when are they going to when are these higher intelligences just going to give up on us? and say,
Right.
and
But
say
they'll never give up on us. I mean, even if we destroy ourselves again. And this sort of ties in with the sort of divinity aspect of it, because everything came from God, which we can't conceive of what God is. It's, it came before the Big Bang. But that divine spark exists within us. It exists within everything. It exists within the Mother Earth as a living, conscious intelligence. It exists within the rocks. It exists within, the trees. All aspects of life contain this divine essence, if you like. Not only will they not, ever give up on us, but it's for us to realize what we really are a part of. That's the path. That's the journey that we're making.
And I would like to, I'd love to think that at some point we're all going to come to our senses. But like you said, you just could turn on the news and be like, okay, well, these guys are screwing it up for us today. And these guys are screwing it up for us.
Well, Shane, I think people are coming to their senses more and more. And I think
I hope
that more and more again, we're beginning to see that politics per se is not the answer.
No.
In fact, I would go so far as to say that not only, politics is never going to be the solution. And the problem, it's not even an economic problem. It's not even a social or an environmental problem. What we have on Earth is a spiritual crisis. We've lost this sense of identity, of purpose, of meaning. And we're getting, sort of clues. I mean, yes, you're quite, it's absolutely correct. UFOs are now the government is being forced to recognize the existence of something other than ourselves. It's doing it in a rather sort of blundering, backward, rather slow way, but at least it's happening. But at the same time, humanity is realizing that the way we're going on this earth, there's no joy left, or very little joy, if there's any joy at all. What is the purpose of it? Life's becoming incredibly hard, incredibly dysfunctional, incredibly miserable for far too many people. We need a bigger picture. We need a new understanding of what this whole thing is about. And, I think, is why I'm in the Aetherius Society. I think that message, that vision, that understanding, that intelligence, that wisdom has been communicated through Dr. George King, in the Artherius Society. And it's why, again, I sort of thank you for having this, enabling this conversation. Humanity's in crisis. And as I say, fundamentally, it's a spiritual crisis. And we need a far greater understanding of what we're doing here, because at the end of the day, it's incredible. It's unbelievable. And it fills one with the sensation of love, which is what it's really all about. It's about love, realization, greatness.
And I want to call because I know there's people listening that are taught that anything that we're discussing right now is just totally blasphemy. Okay, that this can't be the way it is because they're taught a different way. Mm-hmm. But I would encourage everybody that thinks that to do some more research in what you guys believe in. I mean, okay, so if you take away the part where Dr. King was communicated with by aliens, okay, which automatically for some people are going to say, I'm out, okay? No matter how, if they really look at, what their religion's based on, doesn't sound that much different, okay? It's just terminology. But to go and see like the videos and stuff that I watched of you guys gathering together in prayer, and that being the one of the main focuses is of a collective conscience coming together to aim prayer towards people or situations that need it. I mean, that's what happens in church on Sundays around the corner from our house, where we go to church. We're all gathering, listening to a word, the word of our God, but we're all gathering in prayer for that short period of time, praying together. Focus. A lot of times we're praying for victims of a hurricane, victims of a flood, family, a family tragedy. It's bringing that group together, of that church. So what you guys are doing isn't any different. It's just
we're a spiritual organization, and prayer is a very big part of that. Prayer is the invocation of spiritual energy, or love, if you like. It's an invocation of that, and directing it to an area or a situation or even an individual in need of that energy. And the more one does it with focus and intention, intensity and love, unquestionably, then the more successful one's going to be. We actually, Dr. King devised this mission in 1973. We call it Operation Prayer Power, which is performed in locations all around the world, actually, every week, and has been since 1973, where we invoke this spiritual energy. We invoke it through mantra, a combination of mantra and prayer. And we store the energy that's invoked into a battery primarily filled with crystal, very finely ground crystal, that can hold that vibration, that energy, where it becomes extremely concentrated. You build it up, you're charging it every week, directing it into the battery. And then, as you mentioned, when there are crises, whether it's a hurricane, an earthquake, even if there are going to be peace talks regarding a situation like the Middle East or Ukraine, we release it in a very concentrated way. I should add that we never release it to change anybody's mind, because that's an act of black magic. But we do release it to inspire that situation. We've been doing it, as I say, since 1973, and we've virtually seen miracles as a consequence of this extremely concentrated prayer energy. The Aetherius Society is all about the invocation and manipulation, if you like, of love energy. Our world is crying out for it. We're a world, as I mentioned, we're a world in crisis. It's a world in tremendous in need of love, healing, care, understanding, etc., etc., etc. That's the gist of what it's all about. In recognition that we're also on this incredible soul journey, this evolutionary journey that goes not only beyond death, but it goes beyond this world.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I encourage people to go and actually check out, some of these videos that I see, and we'll put links up, because I want people to understand what you guys are doing and what you guys believe in is not that much different than mainstream religions. But it did make me think of, so you spent a lot of time with Dr. King, and so did he ever, because of the stigma in the 50s that was attached to UFOs and aliens and stuff, did he ever say to you, boy, I wish I would have just left that part out of the message to begin with, and we would have reached more and more and more people? It might have been a more accepted thing at the time. I mean, even though you guys have members worldwide, all over the world, right? And a lot of members, not just
Yeah.
a dozen.
No, we're still a small organization, but you know, you're very astute there, Shane, because he could have been a phenomenon if he had sort of gone down the orthodox route, so to speak, and left out this alien bit. I mean, he was incredible as a healer. The spiritual teachings, wisdom which he gave, was utterly profound. However, if George King stood on anything, he stood on truth. He stood on truth. He didn't. He certainly didn't stand on the need for fame and celebrity at all. In fact, he shied away from those things. No, truth was his hallmark, and the fact that we believe this was coming, yes, from Jesus, but Jesus from Venus. That's the truth, and I'm sorry. And if you don't like it, well, there's nothing I can do about that. We do believe Jesus came from Venus. What was the whole resurrection about? What was the ascension about? Is he sitting at the right hand of God? What on earth does that mean? Certainly, as we're learning how infinite creation is, it's just vast. It's phenomenally vast. Where's the right hand of God in all of this, so to speak? He could have had fame and all the rest of it, wealth, I suppose. But it's not what this is. It's too important for that. We're not here on earth for wealth, fame, celebrity. We're here to evolve. We're here to learn. We're here to gain wisdom, basically. And so that's the path, the way he went.
Well, and so, okay, so when I was reading about the Dr. King going into the yoga trance, I'm not using the correct terms probably, but
positive yogic somatic trance.
Yeah. I can't use those terms, but okay. So for anybody who's ever meditated or sat in silence and just tried to connect with themselves or whatever, there really is something to that. Okay. It does open up something. Okay. It's beyond my scope of understanding. Okay. But the lady who is our social media person, Nita, has sent, she sent me a couple books and encouraged me to do some of it, to sit and thought and stuff. And because of, like you said, we're all energy, everything's energy, and you can connect to some kind of vibration. I truly believe that connects you with other people or experiences. I think there's something to, like, if you want to achieve something, to put it out there and get it on that vibration. But I know a lot of people don't get the opportunity or take the opportunity to sit in silence with themselves because there's so much noise. I mean, I say that because our podcast is noise for people that are going to listen. Okay. But do you think, and this is, is that there is higher power in this world that understands what Dr. King understood and do not want the masses to achieve that? And that is why we are bombarded with noise, basically white noise about everything that does not give people a chance to get within themselves and really, just concentrate and clear their minds.
Well, I wouldn't call it higher power.
Well, people in power that understand.
Well, people in power. As I mentioned earlier, we do recognize that there are lower astral realms. There are Obviously, intelligence is like Jesus, like the Buddha, Sri Krishna, the Master Aetherius, wonderful teachers who've come to this earth to, try and inspire and uplift humanity. There are, sadly and regrettably, lower astral realms where there are intelligences with a small I who don't have the best interests of humanity in mind, and but they're extremely powerful, and to a very large extent they certainly have and do control the situation here on this physical realm through mental influence, and the wars that we have, the drug pushing that we have, the crime that we have, all of those things are to a very large extent spawned by in inverted commas, advanced, so-called black magicians on these lower astral realms. It's a fact of life. We fed that. I mean, this is coming back to, I guess, the allegory of the Garden of Eden, where we fall into temptation. We're here to resist temptation. But that temptation of lust, of greed, of envy, or whatever it is, selfishness, it's there for every single one of us, and it's coming from a source. We're here to use our intuition for sure, our higher aspirations, the better part of our nature, not only to resist that, but to recognize and realize a far greater force and act in the light of that. I mean, you could say, in fairly sort of basic terms, that what we have playing out on this earth is a battle between good and evil, and that battle, so to speak, has come. If it isn't, already coming, but you could even say is coming to a head. It's coming to a head. These are very critical times on Earth, and it is a time for each and every one of us to awaken, or to a higher spirituality, a higher realization. The Cosmic Masters have said these are the last days of the old order. And it's a choice each of us has to make, which way we're going to go.
So the old order, what exactly does that mean then? Like we're gonna have to change, or there's gonna be a reset, sort of, or
I'm not talking about the great reset that's coming out of the World Economic Forum by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, personally, I'd say that's a big part of not of the problem, but I'd say that's the opposite direction. But I'd say that, yes, we do need a new reset. We need a spiritual reset. We need a reset based in truth, based in the realization that what we've been taught from those religious dogmas isn't true. It isn't true. We are here to love one another, irrespective of other religion or whatever else it may be. We're a human family. We're here to evolve. We're living on a conscious intelligence being called the Mother Earth, who, we're in danger of, in certain ways, destroying. I don't think, well, I know we won't, because we're not that powerful. She is far more powerful than we are. But unless we begin to sort of recognize the divinity of all life, that all life matters, and come into that far greater realization of consciousness, and that life exists, as I say, beyond this earth, That's where we need to go as a culture. It's where we will go in the long term. It's just a question of how we get there. Do we need to destroy ourselves in the process? So it's an individual choice that's being played out.
So Christians who worship, God, Jesus, and then you have Buddhists, and you have all the other different religions. I mean, essentially, they should. I mean, you guys listen to all those teachings coming straight from.
Well, they're all saying the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which is do unto the golden rule: do unto others as you have them do unto you. I think it's more than that. It's not just that simplistic, so to speak, but that's certainly the gist of it. We're here to love one another. We're here to ultimately love everything. I mean, we're here essentially to love God, which is everything, and even beyond everything. And it's incredibly elevating. That's what we're here to do, to be kind, to serve. We're here to be of service, and that's the motto of the Aetherius Society. I mean, service is the jewel in the rock of attainment. That's the path. That's the path.
So I can almost, in my mind, I can almost see then that is where the divide and conquer started coming is back. Say, well, you can only worship this one way, and you can only worship this one way, and it created
very dark.
Yeah, created friction and a reason for turmoil between people. So it does. I mean, I hope people are open enough to kind of like listen to some of this stuff and at least consider like how much sense this makes. Okay. I mean, it's worth looking into, and it is definitely worth considering, because your message is peace and love. I mean, that's it. Peace and love.
Well, it's more than that. You're right. That's the basis of it.
Yeah.
Peace and love is the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's the starting point. We're on this incredible, magnificent, fantastic journey of evolution. It only gets more and more and more incredible as we go on. It is exponential in that sense. We're here to attain ecstatic joy and bliss, and it only gets more and more. I mentioned earlier on Saturnian existence as being the most evolved planetary system. One can only begin to imagine the sensation of that kind of existence. We are incredibly primitive on this earth. We're very backward. We're very stunted, whatever. We haven't yet really begun. We're here to attain enlightenment. We're on earth to attain enlightenment. Enlightenment is really the beginning. It's the beginning of this incredible, phenomenal journey that we're on. But that, what you're saying, what I'm trying to say, is why I wrote the book. It's why I wrote the book.
Oh, yeah.
Maya, M-A-Y-A, being a Sanskrit word for illusion. Mire, M-I-R-E, the quagmire. We exist in a quagmire of illusion. And it's at a breaking point. In fact, I would say it's already breaking. And greater truth, greater wisdom. It's a natural process. There's a natural force that is arising out of this. And no one can really escape it. Not that it needs to be escaped. It needs to be embraced. And that's what's going. You see, there's a quickening. And it's a quickening to do with the planet. It's bigger than us. the planet, the Mother Earth, is quickening her vibrations. She's changing. Yes, climate change is an aspect of that, whether it's all man-made, question mark over that. The Earth goes through these changes. I mean, obviously, there's nothing good about pollution of any kind. But, there is this whole quickening process that's going on. And the message of these cosmic masters who spoke through Dr. George King is our need to change, and to change in the light of it, and to spiritually change, to evolve, to grow, to open our eyes and open our hearts and live as we're supposed to live.
Now, is there anybody, since Dr. King has passed, is there anybody in the society that has the ability or has reached the ability or is close to getting to the ability where they themselves can communicate with these masters again?
No, there isn't, Shane. I mentioned at the beginning, he spent 8 hours a day over a 10-year period developing himself. There's not one of us who's doing anything like that. It does take incredible discipline and focus to, if you like, develop oneself, certainly develop the mind such that one could attain that level of consciousness. You mentioned earlier, just by basic meditation and stillness, that one sort of attains a different frequency, a different sense of being, which is great and very worthwhile, thoroughly essential, really. But that is nothing like the level of frequency that would be required to gain rapport with these intelligences from the higher dimensions.
Well, like I said, I mean, I can tell a difference in just 10 or 15 minutes. What on earth would 8 hours a day, for 10 years do? It would be amazing, what you could tap into and what your mind and stuff would be open to. I couldn't imagine.
I used to do 2 hours of yoga every morning. I knew that second hour was infinitely higher in its vibration, if you like, than the first hour. So, but I was never able to sort of go to 3 hours, 4 hours. So exactly as you say, I've no idea what it would be like, to spend 8 hours a day in yogic practice, particularly over a 10-year period. But this is what. Well, it's not just that we're here. I mean, yes, that would be great. That isn't necessarily the primary need on Earth at this time. The path is one of service, finding a way that one can contribute, one can help, one can, put one's shoulder to the wheel, so to speak, to change the whole karmic pattern of the human race. That's what we're here to do. Shift it to this greater understanding, and it'll be fantastic. What a party! Not a party, but what a wonderful world it will be to live in when we're all working and cooperating together with this, collective understanding, this collective vision of the great gift of life, what it means to be here, what it is to have this life, to help, to serve. Absolutely glorious. Life will resume, if it ever had it in the first place, a wonderful sense of collaboration and meaning and purpose.
Now, hey, I think you had it right, though. For some of our listeners, as soon as you said party, I know they're like, whoa, wait a second. How do we get to this party? So, I got one more question, and we'll wrap it up. I'll let you tell people how they can, come and ask questions and learn more about the Aetherius Society. But so back to what's going on now with UFOs and the thought of aliens, even from another dimension, let alone another planet coming. What So we have these, Jesus and Buddha and we have those masters, right? That's what Dr. King referred to them as.
They are. They're masters. Yeah.
So who then is coming and kind of like observing us and visiting us? Is it part of the civilization or society that they are part of, or are these independent of that, or just, what is your thought, or what do you feel that these things are?
My thought and feelings on that, they're like the cosmic masters within our own solar system are like parents for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that every intelligence or craft, so to speak, that's visiting this world is necessarily from within the solar system. Very big chances they're not. I mean, the human race are actually a sort of fascinating specimen in the cosmic sense. I mean, the civilization that's destroyed itself 3 times is, has the potential and is threatening to do it again. It's pretty unique. But so the cosmic masters in our solar system, I think, act like any parent would with a child. They watch over us, they care for us, they're guarded. But at the same time, I think that they're incredibly subtle. Whereas we're sort of kind of almost incredibly stupid. And I think the subtlety is in just sort of giving us glimpses, like a child, like a baby. What was that? What was that? We're being awakened to something much bigger than ourselves in a very gentle, careful way. It's not in our face, because we would probably react to it in an extremely sort of typical human way, in a very negative, hostile way, bringing about a breakdown in law and order and whatever else, and possibly we start fighting each other because we're blaming each other, etc. in our childish way. So I think that it's extraordinarily subtle. I think I'd have to put into the same mix crop circles, if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, these sort of manifestations that clearly aren't being made by 2 drunken men coming out of a pub in England at 11 o'clock at night with a plank of wood. It's just something that really should make us pay attention to. We're being, in a way, provoked, but in a very gentle way. And, I'm sure you've done research, but for those who have done research, one thing they've done is they've shut down our nuclear capability.
Mm-hmm.
They're throwing our, so-called nuclear toys out of the pram. And it's all incredibly subtle. We're being induced. We're being carefully induced to a sort of realization, and out of that, an acceptance that we're not the center of God's creation. It's not all about us. There's more. There's other stuff, and it has to be more intelligent and more capable than ourselves. And I think that it's there is this slow awakening process that's going on, and it's very interesting to see how it all plays out. Is it how? I mean, we're living in extraordinarily interesting times for all kinds of reasons. Basically, coming back to the transmission, these are the last days of the old order. They are the last days of the old order. Time is running out for the human race in more ways than one, but at the same time, it's a fantastic, incredible opportunity for us to change and come together as a planetary race, conscious that of other races on other worlds, and that death by no means is finite, it's temporary. We are infinite beings, we're infinite souls, gaining experience. And that's the gist of the message given by these masters through Dr. George King when he went into a positive yogic somatic trance. I've written about it, again, in my book, Mire, A Spiritual Journey into Cosmic Truth, and the Dawning of a New World.
Well, and that remind you, and I will stop talking here. But President Reagan so famously gave in a speech, I forget when it was, early, in his presidency, when he's talking about how the human race may very well be able to cut. We would set aside all of our differences if we were faced with the realization that there were other races besides us, and we might come together as one if we realize that we were not alone. I'm paraphrasing.
I think we would.
What he's, yeah, and it makes you wonder that like they're giving us those subtle hints, like, hey, there's other people here. You guys might want to stop being mean to each other and just be kind, because you're not alone. We can find another prom date. You know what I'm saying? You're not the most special boy or girl. So lay down your differences and your weapons and just get along
Indeed, and care for each other, love each other, love each other. I mean, that's what these masters have all taught us. They've all taught the same thing.
Well, Paul, tell her, and we'll put a link up to the website. Okay, the websites that you shared with me, but tell everybody where they can find your book, and how, if they have more questions and want to learn more about the Aetherius Society, where they can go and learn more.
Well, they can find my book, Shane, dare I say it, on Amazon, and it's Mire, Mayamire, and they can find more about the Aetherius Society at the Aetherius Society's website, which is AETHERIUS.org. And we'd be delighted to, answer anybody's questions.
I encourage everybody that's listened through the whole episode, we'll follow the links, go look up Paul, reach out, ask any questions. I think you're going to be enlightened, to say the least. Now, I don't want to give Amazon any props, because if anybody's evil, it's Amazon and this whole. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just.
Well, I mean, you can get it also from the Aetherius Society, but that's the most immediate place to get it.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for reaching out. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you and getting, some insight and learning more about what it is that you guys do and believe in and practice. I think everybody could learn a lot by listening to what you had to say, for sure.
Thank you very much, Shane. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.